All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. As always, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to check the videos out. The support is always greatly appreciated. We have a very interesting article that I'm going to be reacting to in this video. As you can see, the title says Xbox is about to leave PlayStation in the dust in 2022. So it's a very loaded headline here, very strong opinion. And some people might be thinking, is this clickbait? And I'm going to say it's most likely clickbait. Could be wrong about that, but we're going to have to go through the article and read it and kind of determine whether or not this is clickbait. But, you know, my gut reaction is, yeah, I'm going to say that this is a clickbait title, but I have to admit it does work on me because when I read something like this, I am interested to know why exactly the writer of this article believes that Xbox isn't just going to do a little bit better than PlayStation next year, or even, you know, just better in general. They're going to leave PlayStation in the dust. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they have to say and what arguments they're making and kind of dissect this a little bit and just, you know, let you know what I think of it. So before we get into that, make sure you hit the like button to help this video out and show your support. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. Before we dive into this article, I do want to say something that I think everybody can agree with, and that is 2022 is going to be a very significant year for both PlayStation and Xbox, much more significant than 2021 and maybe even more so than 2020 when the new consoles launched. It just seems to me that there are a massive amount of games coming out for both PlayStation and Xbox, and also multi-platform titles. But the games themselves that are set to release for both consoles and both platforms, I mean, it's going to be interesting, I guess you could say, to see how it's all going to play out. And I think that that's something we can all agree on. But let's get into this here. Starts out by saying Microsoft has made huge strides towards winning back gamers and welcoming in newcomers to the hobby, a radical about-face compared to the team-leading Xbox when the Xbox One launched in 2013. The driving force behind the rise of Xbox isn't the new Xbox Series X console or its baby brother, the Xbox Series S. Instead, it's the 1-2 punch of Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming. While Sony still has the most desirable exclusives, primarily because you can only play them on PS4 or PS5, though increasingly they're releasing later on PC as well, the Japanese game maker has nothing comparable to Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming. Okay, so right off the bat here, you know, they're diverting from talking about the Xbox consoles, which I think is smart because they're just pointing out the obvious, which is Microsoft's main focus nowadays when it comes to gaming is not the console. Yes, they do care about the Series X and the S. They do still care about supporting the console market, but that's not, you know, what Microsoft sees the future of Xbox being. That is, you know, extremely obvious at this point. And then the writer of this article points out Xbox Game Pass and cloud gaming. Now, the third paragraph here is the one that I find most interesting for two reasons. First, they say that Sony doesn't have anything comparable to Game Pass or Xbox Cloud Gaming. I do think that's true mostly, but we'll talk more about that in a minute because I do think that the writer of this article mentions PlayStation Now. But the one thing they do say that I just don't agree with at all, and I just think it's weird to say this, is that Sony has the more desirable exclusives primarily because you can only play them on PS4 and PS5. Look, I love console gaming. That's my favorite way to enjoy video games, and I like to see the console market thrive and people enjoy it and see it grow. I just think it's nice, but I don't think that that's true at all. I don't think that the reason why people are so excited for Horizon Forbidden West next year or even God of War Ragnarok coming later in the year is solely because they're releasing on PS4 and PS5. It's because of the talent at PlayStation Studios. It's because of the talent that is developing these titles at Guerrilla Games and at Santa Monica Studio. There's no doubt that Sony has this kind of prestige around their games because they're exclusive. Like, oh, that's a Sony exclusive, so you just automatically inherently expect higher quality. And, part of that is because of the exclusivity. But at the end of the day, I think everybody can agree that these games are more desirable because they're just better in a lot of ways. And I know that there's the conversation that Xbox is getting better and their quality is improving, and that's all true, but you can't take away what's already there for PlayStation. And I think to kind of whittle it down to, well, the reason why Sony's exclusives are more desirable is because they're not releasing everywhere else. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, when they release next year, if they released everywhere, I'm going to say that that's not going to make them any less desirable. Could be wrong about that, but I don't think I am. So that's a little strange to me. But we're going to keep going here. They say the closest thing Sony has to this is PlayStation Now, but it's nowhere near as full-featured as Game Pass, which has better games, the ability to download games, and includes every single Xbox exclusive on day one across console and PC. With Xbox Cloud Gaming, you can stream these games to your mobile devices. In fact, with just a gamepad, a smartphone, and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription, you can play countless Xbox titles without even owning an Xbox. Okay, so aside from the fact that this is reading like it's literally a paid-for advertisement for Xbox or marketing for Xbox, I think that they're just pointing out the obvious here, and I'm not really understanding. I think I'm like halfway through this article. I'm not understanding at all like how this is going to leave PlayStation in the dust next year. I mean, you're just coming out here and saying that, well, Xbox has Game Pass and Sony has PlayStation Now, and they're two very different things, which you're right. But I do want to point out here, I'm not trying to nitpick, but I'm pretty sure this article is incorrect when it says that with PlayStation Now, you don't have the ability to download games. I think what they mean to say is you don't have the ability to download all games. I could be wrong, and you guys can let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about this, correct me, but I'm pretty sure there are plenty of PlayStation 4 titles within PlayStation Now that you can download and play. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Again, let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I'm fairly certain. And they mention, again, the obvious, Xbox is releasing exclusives day one, cross console and PC, onto Game Pass. I'm not sure what this is getting at. Like, I don't know. Are you saying that in 2022, everybody's going to collectively decide that, well, gaming services like Game Pass are better than going out there and buying video games at full price. So we're all just going to migrate to Game Pass, and because of that, PlayStation's going to get left in the dust, or everybody's just going to collectively decide that, we actually want to stream our games through our phones and our iPads and tablets and whatnot and TVs, and because of that, we're all going to migrate away from PlayStation and their console hardware. You see what I'm saying? Like, this article is just pointing out things that are painfully obvious, we already know, without actually providing a reason as to why PlayStation's going to be left in the dust. So this, last paragraph that we read here talks about xCloud gaming and highlighting the fact that you don't even need an Xbox to play. They're obviously highlighting, how Microsoft has made gaming more accessible, and that's true. But just because Microsoft makes playing Xbox games and just playing games through the Xbox platform more accessible, that doesn't at all mean that PlayStation is going to get left in the dust. In fact, it's been this way for quite some time, and PlayStation seems to be doing pretty great. But we will continue. So it says that Microsoft has made gaming with Xbox, regardless of your hardware, more accessible than ever. So we just highlighted that. This applies to console gaming as well, with programs like Xbox All Access making consoles more affordable, and smart delivery ensuring that no matter what game you buy, you'll always be able to play the best version for no additional cost. If you have an Xbox One and upgrade to an Xbox Series X, the Xbox One version will convert to an Xbox Series X version if one is available. So I will point out that this is certainly an area where Xbox is being more consumer and user friendly. And, I know that for a lot of PlayStation fans, we just don't see it as a big deal. Like, okay, Sony wants to charge $10 for an upgrade. If you really want the upgrade, PlayStation fans, yes, most of them are just gonna pay it to play it, right? But there's no denying that this is an area where Xbox is being more consumer friendly, and they're doing a better job than PlayStation is. And I am of the mindset at this point that I think PlayStation should just follow suit here with Microsoft. Like, I think it would just be better overall for Sony to just say, you know what, hey, our competition is giving out these upgrades for free. We're going to do it as well, but it's not like a make or break situation. And again, this is just kind of pointing out the obvious. These are some of the differences between the Xbox platform and the PlayStation platform. But all in all, again, I don't see how anything that's being said here, I don't see how any of this even remotely implies that PlayStation's going to get left in the dust. It's just not going to happen. But it says here, more accessible, more affordable, and every bit as powerful. The Xbox platform is leaving PlayStation in the dust, even if the PlayStation 5 will almost certainly sell more units than the Xbox Series X. In a lot of ways, for Microsoft at least, that's besides the point. Well, look, I think that what this article is attempting to do ultimately is take a bunch of really obvious things that pretty much everybody already knows and, kind of universally agrees upon. And then again, trying to put it in this weird thing where it's like, and they're going to fight each other. It's like, look, I understand that there's always going to be the competitive nature of PlayStation versus Xbox. You guys know that I like the competition. I think the competition is good, and I do think it's ultimately very necessary. But the reality of the situation is that PlayStation and Xbox are both leaving each other in the dust. And the reason for that is because they're both going in different directions. Xbox is going in this direction where they're all about being everywhere all the time, being as accessible as possible, mainly revolving around subscriptions and volume, having a lot of games entering their subscription service on a frequent basis. Sony is pretty much doing the exact opposite of that. Sony is still very much caring about hardware, selling their consoles. They are caring about making their games bigger, even more, I guess you could say, even more quality than they already are. They're all about just kind of doubling and tripling down on what has worked for them and what has made their games so appealing and what has made their hardware so appealing. And the reason why Sony is doing this is because it's what's made them a lot of money. A lot of money. In fact, more money than Xbox. Not more money than Microsoft. That's a different story, but more money than the Xbox brand. And that is why Sony continues to do this, because it works for them. But this doesn't mean that Sony's necessarily getting left in the dust. And I think that that's where this article really kind of comes off as just flat out wrong. Sony may not be putting the pedal to the metal per se when it comes to subscription services and trying to come up with a Game Pass competitor and trying to get a PlayStation app on TVs and whatever. They're not going all in with that right away because there's no real need for them to do so. Again, I have to emphasize that what works for Sony doesn't necessarily work for Microsoft, and what works for Microsoft doesn't necessarily work for Sony. They're both doing different things. It's okay for them to do different things, and it's okay for both of them to find success in their own ways. And I just think that, Xbox had it really, really, really bad last gen, to where, yes, Xbox absolutely did get left in the dust last generation, and everybody knew that. Even Microsoft knew it, and they were like, we got to change something dramatically, and they did, and it's working out for them. It's working for Xbox. PlayStation was in the opposite boat last generation. PlayStation was just taking off, and that hasn't stopped. Like, that's the thing that I need people to understand here, is an article like this is implying that Sony's success with PlayStation and the way PlayStation has done things and has been doing things is no longer working, and that it's no longer successful. That's just wrong. That's factually wrong. Now, if PlayStation decides that they want to go even further than that, they want to start fleshing out their subscription services and they want to try to find different avenues to make even more money, yeah, they're going to do that. I think it's kind of obvious that they're going to do that, but that's not going to come at the cost of what's already working for them. And I think that that's what people need to kind of understand. And I think that, you know, seeing headlines like this and reading articles that are articulated this way, it's just disingenuous. You know, it doesn't really paint the full picture, and you can tell, like, I don't know, I just got this feeling when reading this article, it's almost like, did a marketer from Xbox write this article? Because it really kind of sounds like they did. Like, you could have framed this entire article of, here are the Xbox advantages that, or the advantages that Xbox, I think, will have over PlayStation in 2022. And that would have made a lot more sense, because, like, yeah, you're pointing out the strengths of Xbox while also highlighting certain weaknesses of PlayStation. I could do the same thing. I could point out the strengths of PlayStation and only highlight the weaknesses of Xbox. But again, that would be disingenuous. So there you go. That's my reaction to this article. Ultimately, I think it is pretty much clickbait. You know, we kind of knew that from the start, but I was kind of hoping that there would be something a little bit more interesting with this that would really kind of challenge or back up, I guess you could say, what's being said here, but it didn't. So there you go. That's my thoughts. You guys can leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree with the article here that Xbox is about to leave PlayStation in the dust in 2022? Or do you think that maybe this was a bit clickbaity? Yeah, let me know. Again, leave the video a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.